Hello everyone. Let's start today with another literary term, elegy. See, when we talk of certain words in any language, we know that how their meanings are changed with the passage of time. It so happens that a particular word starts with a particular meaning, is used in a particular context. It gets changed with the passage of time. The meaning of that particular word sometimes gets extended and sometimes becomes limited with the passage of time. We are very much aware about such things in any language. As while talking of Bharat, when you trace history, you will find that how initially Bharat was the term used for certain part of the country. With the passage of time, its meaning got changed, and now this whole country that we know as India in English is Bharat today. So when we talk of elegy, it also has its history. Of course, when the question is asked that what is elegy, then you will have to give the answer, the definition that exists today. And today's definition of elegy is a formal and sustained lament in verse for the death of a particular person, usually ending in a consolation. Mind it? A formal and sustained. Formal. So it's something which is written in a formal way. And sustained lament. So it is used for mourning. M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G. It's a kind of lament, sustained lament. And in which form? In verse form, not in prose, in verse. For the death of a particular person. So it means here we see that death of a particular person is being lamented formally. Okay? And that's in the form of a poem. Usually ending in a consolation. As you know that when we lose somebody, when we start lamenting, the only thing that we need at that time is the consolation. Here, the poet, the most alienated people on this earth, they console themselves. Nobody comes to console them. So, while writing, they find out the way of consoling themselves. I think while writing, they find some clue for themselves. They find some light for themselves that shows their way of life. Okay. So this is the modern definition that we have of elegy. a formal and sustained lament in verse for the death of a particular person, usually ending in a consolation. Clear? Something that is written with red pen here. Let's trace its history. It will be very interesting to know that in Greek and Roman times, Greek and Roman times means we are talking of Greek and Roman literature. It means we are talking of ancient literature. We are talking of classical literature. So at that time also this elegy was there, and elegy denoted any poem written in elegiac meter. See, so some poem which was written in elegiac meter was known as elegy in the time of Roman and Greek literature. So what is elegiac meter? Elegiac meter is the term used for alternating hexameter and pentameter lines. Very simple. You understand? Hexameter means, hexa means 6. So 6 feet are there in the line. So that is hexameter. And pentameter, penta means 5. So 5 feet were there. Feet, you understand? A foot constitutes one accented syllable at least. Accented and unaccented makes a foot. Okay. So in Greek and Roman times, elegy denoted any poem written in elegiac meter. And what is that? Alternating hexameter and pentameter lines. The term was also used, however, to refer to the subject matter. So what was the subject matter in those periods of elegy? It was of change and loss. Mind it, you will have to learn all the terms that I have given here with the black and red pens. They are very important. At least these are the key terms that you have to remember while writing something about elegy. Okay. So, however, the subject matter was of change and loss. So, of course, change and loss was there as the subject matter. Frequently expressed in elegiac verse, especially in complaints about love. See, so that is how we find it different. It was not the death of a person. It was something, some change or loss. Complaints about love, like that very famous Hindi song, Kya hua tera wada, wo kasam wo irada. Such kind of thing. So it was of that form. Complaints about love for the change and loss. The verse was written in elegiac meter, that is alternating hexameter and pentameter. Okay. Okay. Now move to the period of Renaissance. A very beautiful term in English literature. Renaissance. RENAISSANCE. Renaissance, which began in 14th century in Italy and which reached nearly in the last 15th and early 16th century in England. So in that time of Renaissance, in Europe and England, the world continued to have a variable application through the Renaissance. So this particular elegy, it got varied, it got different forms in the time of Renaissance. For example, here we have the father of metaphysical poetry, none other than John Donne. So we have John Donne's elegies written in late 16th and early 17th centuries, and those elegies are actually love poems. See, you cannot imagine that elegies can be love poems, but yes, that was that. Of course, in a way you can say that when a person laments the death of the other, of whose death we lament? The person whom we love. Okay? So you can say that elegy is another form of a love poem that we find here also in John Donne's poetry. So his elegies are written as love poems, although they relate to the sense of elegy as what? So why are those love poems considered as elegies? Because they talk of lament. So there we see the poet laments. In that, many of them emphasize. So what do these poems of John Donne emphasize? Mutability and loss. Mutability and loss. What is mutability? Something prone to be changed. Something prone to change. Means what? Means in John Donne's poems you find that how he complains to his beloved, how with the course of time everything in his love life got changed. For seeking more information regarding that, you can read his poems like Good Morrow and Canonization, especially Good Morrow. Okay, so this was another form that we can see after Roman and Greek times in Renaissance period in 16th and 17th century. In last 16th and early 17th century, we find that how this got changed as love poems in the writing of John Donne. And then we reach to the proper definition that we have today. In the 17th century, the term elegy began to be limited to the most common present uses. Right now that we have the definition, as I told you in the beginning of the video. In the 17th century, we got this limited definition of elegy, a formal and sustained lament in verse for the death of a particular person, usually ending in a consolation. Okay, so now let me tell you the examples. Chaucer. Do you think that Chaucer also wrote elegy? Yes, he wrote elegy. His one work, Book of the Duchess. Actually, that Book of the Duchess is a poem written in dream allegory form, but it is an elegy. Okay. So, mind it, Chaucer did not only write Canterbury Tales or prologue to the Canterbury Tales, he also wrote this work, Book of the Duchess, which is an elegy. Then, the most famous poem, In Memoriam, written in 1850 by Lord Alfred Tennyson, the poet laureate after Wordsworth of England. Tennyson wrote In Memoriam, and there he laments the death of his friend Arthur Hallam, Arthurhallam, Arthur Hallam. Just remember these names, those I'm telling you, those I'm going to tell you, that which particular work was written for the lamentation of which person? Means whose death is being lamented. This question is also asked always in the examinations like PGT, TGT. Okay. So remember this. You have not to only remember the name of the writer and his writing. In elegy, you will have to know for whom that particular elegy is written. Okay. So In Memoriam was written for Arthur Hallam, Tennyson's friend. And one interesting thing that I want to tell you about In Memoriam. Queen Victoria, the queen on the throne at that time, she lost her son, her young son, and she was very much worried, very much upset with his death. At the time, somehow she read In Memoriam by Tennyson. And you know what did she say about this? She said that In Memoriam is second to me after Bible. After Bible. Means that holy book Bible, holy book of Christians, which they admire a lot. After Bible, the book which was of much significance for Queen Victoria was this, In Memoriam. Okay. Then we have one poem by W.H. Auden, the poet of 1930s, the poet who came in the next generation of T.S. Eliot, I think. So he wrote one poem in the memory of Yeats, in memory of W.B. Yeats. Actually, W.H. Auden also wrote for Freud as well. Okay. In memory of W.B. Yeats. Good poem. Short poem, not very long. Okay. So these were some examples. There are other examples as well. There is the example of Adonais by P.B. Shelley. One is Lycidas. We'll tell you about that later. Okay. One thing that we have to remember here. Occasionally, the term is used in its order and broader sense for somber meditations on mortality. See, try to understand. Somber, what is meaning of somber? Very sad and serious. So somber meditations on mortality. Occasionally we find this thing also. What does it mean? See, when a poet laments the death of a particular person, there he has some concrete thing to lament on, some concrete person, some individual, proper noun you can say. Okay. But sometimes elegies are also written for the somber meditation on the mortality. Mortality is what? The abstract notion, the abstract noun, the feeling, the emotion of mortality. So that mortality is also thought upon, that mortality is also lamented upon by some poets. And that is how we find that elegy becomes impersonal sometimes. And the most beautiful example of that we have in English literature by the most read person. Most read means, you know, he was well read, the person, Thomas Gray. And his poem, his elegy, that is elegy written in country churchyard, and it was written in the year of Battle of Plassey that we have in India, 1757. So elegy written in country churchyard basically is a somber meditation on mortality, and there we find that how Gray does not talk of a single person only, he talks of a generation, he talks of the farmers, he talks of the peasants who spend their life on the soil. How they take birth, they do their duties in their life, and ultimately they die. Nobody is there to lament their death. So Gray took this responsibility and he presents their life to us in the form of elegy written in country churchyard. There he sings their songs. So somehow that shows the impersonal nature of elegy. So elegy cannot only be written on the death of a particular person, it can talk of a particular emotion of lament, particular notion of mortality. One more thing that I want to tell you here. See, when we talk of Thomas Gray, he is considered to be a transitional poet. Why a transitional poet? Because he came in between neoclassicism and romanticism. So neoclassicism was fading away and romanticism was coming, had not reached yet. Okay, at that time there we find the transitional period, Sankraman Kal, in the time of Thomas Gray. And that is why in his poetry you will find those things, the combination, the amalgamation, the mixing, the blending of subjectivity and objectivity. And elegy written in country churches is the supreme example of that. The poet is lamenting, so his eye is there somehow, but what does he lament? He is lamenting the death of the several people there, those who are buried in that churchyard. That makes it impersonal, that makes it objective somehow, something which talks of most of the people, people of a type. Okay, so then there is one more term, one should not be confused with it, that is called dirge, D-I-R-G-E. In British English we don't pronounce this r sound which comes in between, so it is called dirge. And that is not dirge, okay, dirge. And in American English we pronounce this R, so this is called dirge. So you can say dirge or dirge. What is dirge? This is also a versified expression of grief on the occasion of a particular person's death. So in this manner, this is totally matching with the elegy, but in which context it is different, that you have to remember. You have to remember that dirge is also a versified expression of grief on the occasion of a particular person's death, but differs from elegy. How? In that it is short. Okay, S-H-O-R-T. So dirge is short, elegy is longer than that. Okay, elegies are somehow lengthier one. And Does is formal. No, less formal. As we talked about elegy, elegy is formal writing. Dirge is less formal and is usually represented as a text to be sung. That is also one more thing that we should add here, that does is usually written to be sung, that we don't have with elegy. But of course elegies are also sung. Even in my MA days we performed the presentation that we did on romanticism. There we talked of Adonais, the elegy written on the death of John Keats by P.B. Shelley. There we recited that elegy very beautifully, and we sung that. We performed the process of burial of John Keats on the stage, and ultimately the effect of that the effect of that presentation of elegy was that our professor, she started weeping. So elegies also can be sung, but of course they are not meant to be sung. See, I mean, novels are written to be read, dramas are written to be performed. That doesn't mean that you cannot perform novel. You can perform if you want. That is other thing. But novel is not meant to be performed. Okay? And dramas are not meant to be read actually. And we do it always. We read drama. So that is other thing. But dirge is short, is less formal, and is usually represented as a text to be sung. See, for example, we have a line in The Tempest by William Shakespeare. There, they tell to the Ferdinand about the death of his father, and then we have this line, "Full fathom 5 thy father lies. Full fathom 5 thy father lies." And see, this beautiful line is also used while talking of alliteration, how this first sound gets repeated here. Full fathom 5 thy father lies. And this line is also asked that from which text this line has been taken. So the answer is The Tempest by William Shakespeare. Then one more example that we have from William Collins, his work, this line, "A song from Shakespeare's Cymbeline." I think that is a small piece of poem, a dirge by William Collins. So now we are very much aware about elegy and dirge. Let me tell you two more terms which are used for this elegy and dirge sometimes. So don't be confused with them, that which kind of term these are. We are not aware of that. We know only elegy and dirge. No, you must know others also, and those are threnody, Thrенody, threnody, and other one that we have is monody, 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 Monody. Okay, what is threnody? Threnody is an equivalent of dirge. So remember this, that instead of dirge one can ask for threnody, Threnody. And the other one that we have is monody, Monody. And what is that? It can be an elegy or dirge. Okay, an elegy or dirge which is presented as the utterance of a single person. Okay, utterance of a single person, that is why it's called monody. Mono, you know, mono means one, so monody, utterance of a single person, and this monody can be a dirge or can be an elegy. We have some example in English literature, very famous example of elegies, but here we have taken it in the form of monody. There we have one work written by John Milton. Remember this, that Milton is not only known for his Paradise Lost, he is also well known for his elegy, that is Lycidas, Lycidas. And this Lycidas was written on the death of Edward King. So don't be confused that he was a king. Of course, he was not a king. He was the friend of John Milton. He died in a sea voyage, Edward King. So on the death of him, he wrote this Lycidas and he gave it a title. And what is the title? Monody. So Lycidas, monody, that is the subtitle of the work. This is also a form of monody. And another example, another very famous example, Thyrsis, Thyrsis, a monody written on the death of A.C. Clough, C-L-O-U-G-H, A.C. C-L-O-U-G-H, A.C. Clough's death by Matthew Arnold. Okay. So Arnold is also known for elegy. He also wrote on the death of his father. So two examples of monody that we have. One is Lycidas monody by John Milton, written on the death of Edward King. And another example that we have from Matthew Arnold, the name of the work is Thyrsis, Thyrsis, a monody. So this is also a subtitle on the death of A.C. Clough, C-L-O-U-G-H, the friend of Arnold, to whom his sister was to be married. Okay, so this is all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you.